Are you a math teacher trying to incorporate multimedia learning into your classroom but are having trouble finding a balance? Today we will go over 3 multimedia learning principles to make your next lesson a success. There are 3 main e-learning principles to consider when creating a multimedia lesson: the multimedia principle, the congruity principle, and the modality principle. In this video, we will focus on the modality principle. By the end of this video, you should be able to evaluate a multimedia lesson's effectiveness and also be able to create your own multimedia lesson by using these e-learning principles. Let's go over the basics of each of these principles. The multimedia principle recommends using both words and pictures to present your content. The congruity principle is when you place printed words near corresponding graphics or synchronize words near their corresponding graphics. And finally, the modality principle is the idea of using audio instead of written text when presenting visuals and words simultaneously. In this video, we will be focusing on the modality principle, which is focused on the cognitive theory that there are 2 channels in which the brain processes material, the auditory and the visual channel. The modality principle focuses on using both of these channels rather than only one. Let's look at the following 2 examples. The first will be implementing the modality principle, while the second will not. In this example, using the modality principle, we will be identifying the parts of an expression. First, we have the 2, which is our coefficient, which is the number located in front of our variable. We use letters to represent variables because they can represent any number. And finally, we have our constant, which is a number that is not attached to a variable because it cannot change its value. Now we will look at this same example, but without using the modality principle. Hopefully you should be able to see which one is more effective. Hopefully you were able to see that in our previous example, it was much easier to focus on the content because you got to listen to the vocabulary words instead of having to focus on both sides of the screen. On this next slide, you'll see something that is not implementing the modality principle. Take a minute, pause the video, and look at the example. See if you can think of ways that you could implement the modality principle that would make this lesson more effective. Have you finished? Hopefully you said that we should eliminate the written steps and instead read them orally as we go throughout the process. By eliminating the text, the students won't have to read everything on the screen, but instead will be able to focus on the problem at hand. Congratulations, you've just learned about the modality principle. Before we go, let's go over all 3 principles one more time. There's the multimedia principle, which is when you should implement both words and visuals if you can when presenting content. The congruity principle, which is where you should place words near their corresponding graphics or synchronize your spoken words with their corresponding graphics. And finally, the modality principle, which is when you should use spoken word rather than written word if you're going to present both words and images simultaneously. We've reached the end of our lesson, so now at this point you should be able to evaluate a lesson's effectiveness and also create your own multimedia lessons using the 3 principles we've learned today. Now you're ready to incorporate multimedia into your lessons, so just remember the 3 principles we learned today: the multimedia principle, the congruity principle, and the modality principle. Good luck!